One of the men Mr. Epstein interviewed for his inquest is Arlen Specter, now District Attorney of Philadelphia, but in 1964, one of the principal investigators for the Warren Commission, charged with establishing the basic facts of the assassination. Mr. Specter thinks the commission did its job well and came up with the right answers.
I would say, after having prosecuted a great many cases, that seldom would you ever find a case which was as persuasive that Oswald was the assassin, and in fact the lone assassin. And we convict people in the criminal courts every day, right here in City Hall, Philadelphia. And at times the death penalties are imposed, or life imprisonment, death penalty, or life imprisonment, so that the case does fit together.
In separate interviews, we asked critic Epstein and investigator Specter to discuss some of the central issues that must determine how well or how badly the Warren Commission did its work.
Part of the job of the Warren Commission was restoring confidence in the American government. And for this, he had to pick 7 very respectable men who would lend their name and lend probity to the report. And so that the problem was, in any 7 men he picked of this sort, they would have very little time for the investigation. They would also have 2 purposes. One purpose would be to find the truth, all the facts. The other purpose would be to allay rumors, to dispel conspiracy theories and material of that sort.
My view is that there is absolutely no foundation for that type of a charge. When the president selected the commissioners, he chose men of unblemished reputation and very high standing. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States would have no reason whatsoever to be expedient or to search for political truth, nor would Allen W. Dulles, the former head of the CIA, nor would John McCloy with his distinguished service in government, nor would the congressional or senatorial representatives. Now, the same thing was true of the staff members. When it came time to select the individuals to serve as assistant counsel and general counsel, men were chosen from various parts of the United States who had no connection with government.
For example, there were rumors concerning the FBI or various intelligence agencies. I noticed that there were a number of memorandums where from Warren to the Secretary of the Treasury, who was in charge of the Secret Service, assuring that their findings wouldn't impair the efficiency or the morale of the Secret Service. And the same thing, the FBI, a question of whether there was ever any possible connection between Oswald, and by connection I don't mean anything sinister, I simply meant that he was furnishing information, and there were some rumors to this effect, and they, rather than investigating these rumors, they preferred to give it to the FBI to investigate the rumors themselves. As J. Lee Rankin, the general counsel, said, they would rather that agency clear its own skirts. Well, what this meant, of course, is that if the FBI would have discretion, if it did find a connection between Oswald and itself, it would have the discretion of either reporting or not reporting it.
In the main, the FBI conducted the basic line of investigation. But the commission used its independence wherever, say, the FBI or the Secret Service was involved itself, so that they would not investigate themselves on the subjects where they were directly involved. And I think the commission showed its independence in that regard by criticizing the Federal Bureau of Investigation and by criticizing the Secret Service where the facts warranted such criticism. On every subject where the Federal Bureau of Investigation had contact with the area of investigation with which I was intimately connected, I was fully satisfied with their thoroughness and with their competency and with their integrity.
Despite Mr. Specter's defense, it is the opinion of CBS News that the role of the FBI, as well as the Secret Service, both in the assassination and its aftermath, has been less than glorious. And to some extent, the performance of these agencies weakens the credibility of the Warren report. As to what the FBI and the Secret Service did wrong before the assassination, we need look no further than the report itself. It notes that Secret Service agents assigned to protect the president had been drinking beer and liquor into the early hours of the morning, that no search was made of buildings along the route, and that, quote, the procedures of the Secret Service designed to identify and protect against persons considered serious threats to the president were not adequate prior to the assassination, end quote. That is, the Secret Service should have known about Lee Harvey Oswald. But the report goes on to point out that if the Secret Service did not know about him, the FBI did, and did not see fit to mention his existence to the Secret Service. The report issues a mildly phrased yet devastating rebuke to the FBI, charging that it took an unduly restrictive view of its responsibility. Knowing what the FBI knew about Oswald, the report says an alert agency should have listed him as a potential menace to the president. Yet, after the assassination, the commission itself relied heavily on these two agencies as its investigative arms. Did their performance improve? We know that some of the tests conducted by them for the Warren Commission were unsatisfactory. In the first of these broadcasts, we pointed out that to simulate Oswald's problem of hitting a moving target from a 60-foot high perch, the FBI conducted its firing tests on a fixed target from a 30-foot height. Certainly, if CBS News could duplicate the conditions of the actual assassination for a firing test, the feat's not beyond the capability of the FBI.
There is also the case of the famous Exhibit 399, the bullet which the commission thought wounded both the president and Governor Connally, winding up on the governor's stretcher in Parkland Hospital. Critics of the report, you'll remember, insist it couldn't have hit both men, but must have been found on the president's stretcher. Yet part of the now permanent confusion surrounding the bullet and where it was found must be charged to the cavalier attitude of agents of both the FBI and the Secret Service at Parkland Hospital. On Monday night, hospital attendant Darrell Tomlinson described how, in shoving a stretcher into place, he dislodged a spent rifle bullet. Mr. Tomlinson quite properly sent at once for the hospital's chief of security, O.P. Wright. Mr. Wright describes what happened then.
I told him to just hold and not let anyone remove the bullet. And I would get a hold of either the Secret Service or the FBI and turn it over to them. Thereby, it wouldn't have come through my hands at all. I contacted the FBI, and they said they were not interested because it wasn't their responsibility to make the investigation. So I got a hold of the Secret Service man, and they didn't seem interested in coming and looking at the bullet in the position it was then in. So I went back to the area where Mr. Tomlinson was and picked up the bullet and put it in my pocket. And I carried it some 30, 40 minutes, and I gave it to a Secret Service man that was guarding the main door into the emergency area.
Mr. Wright, when you gave this bullet to the Secret Service agent, did he mark it in any way?
No, sir.
What did he do with it?
Put it in his left-hand coat pocket.
Well, now, did he ask your name or any question at all about the bullet?
No, sir.
How did the conversation go? Do you remember?
I just told him this was a bullet that was picked up on a stretcher that had come off the emergency elevator that might be involved in the moving of Governor Connally. And handed him the bullet, and he took it and looked at it and said, okay, and put it in his pocket.